What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to another episode of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest. I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. Our wonderful crew this Sunday afternoon when we're recording: Diego Franco-Carreno, Matthew Penn, Joey Bohley. Very familiar names. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing well.
Wow, trying to sound a little bit more excited.
Oh, well.
Matthew, right after recording, you have a baseball game today, which is
more internship stuff. It's fun working in baseball.
There you go. So that'll be fun.
Yep.
But got a good show for everybody today. Usual standings updates around the league in 60 seconds. Weekly wrap-ups, nothing new there. 7th inning stretch. What to watch for this week. Also nothing new there. Let's jump right into it. While it looks like we lost Joey for a little bit, we'll hope to get him back. Anywho, around the league in 60 seconds. Welcome back, Joey. Let's start with Diego.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so around the league, all I've got, I didn't do a ton of, other things besides Dwayne Kuiper returned to the booth yesterday for the Giants after being gone for 6 weeks as he was getting cancer treatments. And that's all that mattered to me. I was so excited to see him back. He'll be back kind of like intermittently, games here and there. He's not going to be back full time, which is totally understandable. Makes so much sense. But it was fantastic to see him back in the booth. I know all of the Giants fan base was super excited. I'm sure as most of baseball was. To get him back in the booth, hear his voice again calling those games. So that was incredible. Giants took 3 or 4 from the Dodgers this last week. Trade deadline looming. A lot of games or a lot of players to watch, especially the entire Cubs roster, and some big names like Joey Gallo and some other ones around. And also the Tigers had a 7-game win streak. That was pretty sick. Proud of them. That's what I got for you.
Joey, you as the Tigers fan, what you got? If you can hear me.
I just, if you are not familiar, I can, yeah. If you're not familiar with...
He's gone. Always fun recording broadcasts with technical difficulties. Matthew, noted Nationals fan, will go to you instead.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. Diego mentioned it. We're going to talk about it later. The trade deadline, both the trades that have happened and the rumors of stuff that could be happening. Lots of big names being thrown around there. Then out in the West, where the Giants all season long, we've been waiting. Are they going to fall back? Are they going to continue that lead? And for now, they got a 2-game lead. The entire NL West is 5-5 in their last 10 games. Not a lot changing out there, I guess. And for the Nationals, we had Soto. Who's been, since the All-Star game, really found his swing again, been one of the best players in baseball, as we know he can be. So hopefully he keeps that up, and that's pretty much what I got.
Yeah, it's nice to see Soto back, and kind of cool he says that about the home run derby fixing his swing, and then it actually goes and happens. So that's pretty cool. Joey keeps floating in and out, so we'll skip him for now because there are a few things I want to talk about before the standings update, which kind of leads right into the start of 7th inning stretch. First, all-female broadcast announcing crew occurred this week. Tampa Bay Rays and Baltimore Orioles, so a big step forward in the broadcasting industry, with that being the first all-female broadcast. I think there was some talk in, I think it was the Orioles dugout about...
Cedric Mullins and... not Mountcastle. Someone else in there. Or Santander. I don't know how else down. This is them talking about, though.
But yeah, the two of them it was a cool conversation to hear. Just, I think the audio came out from it or whatever, but a big moment in sports history, in broadcasting history. Also, today, July 25th, and also, I guess, 24th. Technically, it was over the course of 2 days, the first round of this year's Hall of Fame induction ceremony, technically from last year's Hall of Fame induction class. This is all about the broadcasting side of things and the writing side of things. So Al Michaels, Hawk Harrelson, Dick Cagle, Nick Cafardo, David Montgomery, all honored in this July 24th/25th ceremony. So if you haven't seen that, go and check it out. If you're a Sox fan, I'm sure you have already seen at least part of Hawk's speech. I know he's a divisive character, to say the least, but that being said, it was always a pleasure to listen to him call games, and cool to see him get honored. So congratulations to all of those. The quote-unquote normal induction ceremony will take place September 8th, as it usually would, right out on the lawn in Cooperstown, New York. Derek Jeter, Marvin Miller, Ted Simmons, Larry Walker will all be honored at that ceremony. Since Joey still hasn't made his way back yet from his technical difficulties, we'll jump into the standings update, which leads nicely into our first question for seventh inning stretch. If the season ended today, the Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays would be tied atop the AL East. Now, wanted to make it clear before I forget, we're recording Sunday afternoon. There's a lot of day games going on. This might change a little bit, not a ton. AL Central, the White Sox have a 9-game lead on the Cleveland Guardians. In the AL West, the Houston Astros lead the Oakland A's. And the Oakland A's and between the Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays, whichever one doesn't technically win the tiebreaker, those would be your two wildcard teams out there. In the NL East, the New York Mets have a 4-game lead in the division. The Milwaukee Brewers, 6.5-game lead in the NL Central. The San Francisco Giants, Diego, 2-game lead over the Dodgers, even after an important series this week. So the Dodgers being one of the two other wildcard teams out there, as well as the Padres. I mean, we've got a couple divisions right now, the NL East, the AL Central, with only one team above 500. And it's your division leader, obviously. There's a ton going on right now. Ton of movement. In some divisions, a lack of movement in some other divisions. And I think that really leads perfectly into the seventh inning stretch, because our very first question is regarding the looming trade deadline that's just under a week away. Nelson Cruz and Rich Hill were the first two big names moved at the trade deadline this year, going to and from the Rays, respectively. Obviously, the move for Cruz makes a ton of sense for the Rays, given that their DH production has been suspect at best. But what's the rationale behind trading Rich Hill for Tommy Hunter and a Double-A catcher? Diego, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just tend not to question the Rays front office when they acquire pitching ever. That just feels like, don't question them, because they know something in there where like, we want this guy, and then he's gonna have like a .24 ERA out of the bullpen or something like that, because that's how the Rays are. And yeah, it didn't make a ton of sense on the surface though. A 35-year-old minor league pitcher raises a lot of questions. And also, fun fact, the catcher never made above A ball. He's not even a Double-A catcher. He's only been, I think, high A is as high as he's reached. His name's Matt Dyer. I don't know where the Double-A narrative came from. I think someone said it once and everyone rolled with it, but he hasn't made it above A ball.
Way to call me out there.
I mean, it's been everywhere. Everyone's been saying Double-A, but he hasn't made above A ball. When I looked into it a little bit. But yeah. Anyway, Hill has had a really, really tough stretch. His last 7 starts since mid-June. His ERA has been, I think, above 7. On the surface, if you're gonna look at stuff like ERA like that, he has a 3.7, I think, on the year. But he hasn't been great, and it might be something they're clearing a little more money to bring on that Cruz contract. Maybe it's not a ton. You only make 2.5 over the entire year, 2.5 million. But if this is just a move, they're showing they're willing to deal in order to acquire as well. It could be a scary thing for AL East fans everywhere, or baseball fans in general.
In terms of the Double-A thing, I swear I looked this up and saw him on Double-A. I don't know where I missed it. I'm gonna blame Jeff Passan though, because I'm pretty sure he said Double-A.
Yeah, I think he was the first one who said it. And then I looked at him like it's Single-A.
And I could have sworn I looked this guy up, and you're right. There's no anything past Single-A. I'm very confused. If I lost points on this, I would take some points away from me. It's a nicely done.
He's 23-year-old, previous 4th-round pick.
Yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting one. Matthew, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, you said the Cruz move makes sense. He's already been doing his thing, already homered, I think,
Yep.
for the Rays. And as far as, a normal team making this Hill for Hunter and a catcher trade, I don't know if that would be a great move. But as Diego already mentioned, it's the Rays. I'm
No
not going to
question.
judge them too harshly until, we come a couple years down the road. If it doesn't pan out maybe then we can look back and say, what were they doing? But at this point, you got to just trust in their scouts and their development, what they're doing. I think part of it could also be maybe something with ownership where they said you can buy some, but also we don't want to deplete the farm system and everything too bad in the future. So if you're going to buy, you got to sell. And Hill was just, someone they got to give up for that. It was the Mets who, they need their pitching with the injuries. But like Diego said, he's been struggling recently, and they might not be deep as a starting pitching staff, but the Rays of any team don't really need their starting pitching to be their strength. They can figure out ways with openers, with bullpen games, with their arms to put games together. And I also think they're not done yet. We still have a week till the trading deadline, and I think they're gonna possibly go out for another pitcher, whether it's a reliever or a starter, that can take up some of those innings and fill in more of a Rays type pitcher, maybe.
I think you both kind of bring up good points. I think in a vacuum, the move feels like it doesn't make a ton of sense. But it could be something further. I think Matthew bring up a really good point. Judge it after the trade deadline and judge it after all the other moves are made. To also your point, Diego, couple bad starts recently. Trade him while you can still get something for him. In very much the Rays way. Yeah. Very much the Rays way of doing things. Certainly something that maybe in a vacuum doesn't make as much sense, but we'll see what happens. Again, I think we've discussed this before, though. Like, I shouldn't be questioning the Rays. I'm going to sound like a fool 3 years from now when Matt
Go
Dyer.
back and record any clip that said, what were they doing?
Yeah,
I have an all-star catcher, pitcher.
Yeah, I'm not gonna question it too much, but inning 2, and we'll try and bring Joey back in for this one.
Oh,
there he is.
Let's see if he's in. Inning 2, the team out in Cleveland announced they will be going by a new name this week, now known as the Cleveland Guardians. Your thoughts on the new logo and the new team name? And we will start with Joey to see if we can get him before we lose him inevitably again.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste any words here. Not really a fan of the change. Well, obviously needed to be changed. No, yeah, needed to be changed. Not a fan of the choice that they made. I think there were certainly better options out there. Spiders comes to mind. But, Guardians, I guess, make sense if you're from Cleveland. I don't know. I'm really not excited about it. I don't Guardians doesn't do anything for me. And I mean, I'm guessing not really the target, Guardian lover. I'm not really the person that they're looking to like, but would have bought a Spiders hat, definitely buying a Guardians hat. So for a team who seems always seems super worried about money with payroll and stuff, I feel like they missed out on a lot of it by not going with Spiders.
Interesting. Matthew, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll agree. It felt like they sort of had Spiders right there for them and dropped that one. Whereas Joey was saying, you'd have fans of other teams, maybe not even baseball in general, just buying some of the merchandise, some of the hats from that. But to be honest, the Guardians name at first, I didn't really like it, the first reaction, but over the past couple of days, it's sort of been growing on me, seeing some of the reactions from people in Cleveland and how the connection to the city and, keeping they wanted to keep some of the colors, I guess, and some of the parts of the team while still making that change that needed to be made. So they have some continuation while making it more about the city and more of a mascot that's okay to have. Though I did see someone say it feels more like a City Connect type jersey, which I kind of agree with. Where it's maybe that's just because we've been having more of those revealed recently than team name changes, but it does feel sort of, you know, temporary or type thing that would work some of the time, but not full time. We'll see how it works going forward, though.
Interesting. Diego?
Yeah, so I think the new names, it's a bit of a mouthful. Like Guardians, like, there goes Joey again. But,
the eternal saga of episode 14 is Joey here.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Guardians, it just seems like kind of a long name for a sports team. Like, like the whole, like, let's go, and, like, insert team name for, like, let's go Giants, let's go White Sox, let's go Nats. Like, because I think, is it Nats? Do they use Nats? I'd imagine they would. Nats. Yeah, but, like, let's go Guardians. Like, how do you shorten that? Guards? Like, it just feels like it's a lot.
It's a valid point.
Yeah, it's a lot of syllables. And, like, the new C, like, logo with just the new font, it's nothing exciting. There's a lot left to be desired. The G with the wings and the baseball, I think that logo is sick. Yeah. That logo looks really nice. I really like what they did there. But everything else they did, it's kind of odd. But that logo itself, it's really unique. It feels like it makes a lot of sense after hearing more of the cities, like, why they chose Guardians with those, like, the Guardians of traffic on each side of the highway. So having the two G's on the sides, the baseball in the middle, beautiful. I like that a lot. That's the only thing I like about them. I don't love the name. I think they had a lot of better options, like Spiders. I liked Cleveland Carnations. That was really just a me thing, though. I thought it would have been pretty cool as the state flower. It also would have been really unique. You could have done, like, navy blue and a pink color, like a light pink, maybe a neonish kind of pink. Probably wouldn't have, but I think it would have been really cool. But anyway, also, like, kind of like Matthew said, I kind of agree. I'm not the target audience. I'm not a Cleveland fan. And so who cares what I say? Like, they don't care what I think. I'm a Giants fan. But, like, the Cleveland fan base seems really excited about the name. So, I'm happy for them. Good for Cleveland. They're clearly a little more excited about it than everyone else. And that's really all that matters. Like, they're the ones who the name changes for. So if they like it, then that's good for them. Good for Cleveland.
I'm going to agree and disagree. I'm going to agree that who cares because none of us are Cleveland Guardian fans.
Right.
I'm going to disagree that with the alternative of the Cleveland Spiders. I was very much not a fan of it.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it wasn't like I wasn't a fan. Maybe wasn't a fan of it. I was like,
it wasn't your top choice.
Yeah, it wasn't my top choice. I think everyone is clearly like, oh, Cleveland Spiders, let's do it. I was like, I never got on that one. I know Cleveland fans didn't exactly love the idea, but I would have loved the idea of something around the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being there.
Yeah, that would have been
something
cool.
Something music based would have been really cool, really unique from what they have at the major league level.
Just wait till we get to Nashville.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Until we get to Nashville, and then there becomes a second team with musical background on it. But I get the background. I get where the Guardians comes from, and I think it's very well Cleveland based. Mm-hmm. I think they not lazy. Lazy is the wrong word with the logos and the fonts. I felt like it's just easy. They kept, DIANS was still the same, so let's just keep everything kind of look the same.
I think it was also rushed a little bit, maybe, just because of how quickly the turnaround is. As a fan of Washington football team, and they've sort of been stretching the process out, and a lot of fans I've seen complaining about the length of that. But then looking at Cleveland and seeing maybe they rushed it too much, picked something that, maybe they didn't think it all the way through, didn't have a full rebrand. Maybe it's worth it to take a little bit more time to make that decision.
And it's not even like you needed a full rebrand, to be fair. I think just something a little bit unique would have been cool.
Yeah. Guardians is unique.
And I will say, if for nothing else, them taking the time to make the logo with the G and the wings, like, that's pretty cool. If, like, that's what you spent your time and production budget on, like, nicely done.
It should be their main cap, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's a great logo.
It is a great look. It is a great logo. But overall, I think, again, we're not Cleveland fans. It's fine if they like it. Great. I just think, as an outsider, I would have felt like the Cleveland sound would have been cool. Like, Cleveland, pick another something.
Rock stars.
Like something really like, even if it feels minor league-ish, like something different, something cool.
Minor league baseball has incredible names. Like
Yeah.
It's like if some major league teams had minor league team names, like I would love that. Like make it fun. It doesn't have to be all straightforward all the time. But
Yeah.
I thought having Tom Hanks was cool. I thought the general theme of their video was pretty cool too. So like I said, I get the connection. So if Cleveland fans are happy, that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So inning 3, we're going to stick right in Cleveland. It's been rumored that the Cleveland Guardians are considering trading star third baseman Jose Ramirez. We'll start with you, Diego. Does it make sense to make this move? Who would look to acquire Ramirez, and what would it take to do so?
Yeah, so I hadn't actually heard about JRM being on the move until you sent this out yesterday, and I did a little bit of research on it. Yeah, so JRM maybe being moved, maybe not. I think it makes a lot of sense if Cleveland decides that they're out of it and they want to kind of go into a rebuild. I mean, they've just fallen to 500. They're a 500 team right now. I think they're 48-48 as of the time of recording this video. And so if they decide that they're not going to catch the White Sox, which let's be real, they're not going to catch the White Sox, they can sell. And JRM might be one of those players that he will easily get a lot back for him because he is one of the top players in baseball, one of the most underrated players in the league. I feel like I know, like we'll talk about him a lot, but like the general baseball population doesn't, like, because he's out in Cleveland. Like nothing's nice out in Cleveland. Let's be real. But like, yeah, and they're not going to catch the White Sox. So I think, and he's also his contract extremely team friendly through the year 2023. So it's another couple years of control. It would take a lot to get him away. I think it's going to take at least 2 top 100 prospects. Like at least. Like that's the starting point. Or maybe a top 10. Maybe you can get away with that. But I don't think any team is willing to deal that. The only team I've seen really connected to this is Seattle. And they have the farm system to do it too, if they really wanted to. Because Seager's out after this year. JRM does have a little bit of flexibility. He can play like a second base as well. You can also stick him at DH if you really wanted to, or even Seager at DH. And if the Mariners decide they want to go for it, which they're in a spot where they very well could decide that. They're in a pretty good spot right now, the best spot they've been in since 2001. But I don't think it's going to happen. The only other team I could think that would make some sense would be Toronto. They do have a decent enough farm, I think, where they could deal to get JRM, but that high profile of a player with that team friendly of a deal with like so little hope in Cleveland, I think it's going to take too much. I don't think any team's willing to make that deal.
Matthew, the Nationals could use a third baseman.
Well,
They could use a lot of.
Yeah, the Nationals use a lot right now. Third baseman, a second baseman, an outfielder, a couple pitchers.
Manager.
Anyway, I think a lot of what Diego said, good points. Cleveland at 500 now. They're not going to catch the White Sox. The White Sox are the best team in that division, and even when they're hurt, like the best team, it's not that close. So I don't think it would make sense for Cleveland to go for it this year, meaning they should sell him, or at least they should shop him around, see what deals they could get. But you got to make sure if you do trade him, you get something worth it for him. You got a couple of years of control, as Diego mentioned. But after selling Lindor in the offseason, and then just the hitting for the team hasn't really been there, it's not like they're going to compete. So you definitely have to look for an option. I've seen, like Diego said, the Mariners rumored. I think the Braves were talked about, which is an interesting one because they actually have a worse record than Cleveland does. But
worse division, though.
Yeah, much worse division. In the NL East, they're only 4 games out of the division, and obviously you got a ton of games left against the Mets going forward, who themselves haven't looked great. So I think they could try to make a push for him. I don't know if they'd have enough that would convince Cleveland to make that move. But if you're not looking to trade him, if you say he's off limits, you're making a mistake in the front office for Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, once you move Lindor, you've essentially given up on this current brand of, or this current what's the word I'm looking for? Like this current
Stage
era
of
of the Cleveland
baseball team.
Guardians, and whatever. You've decided that this is the end of what it was. We had a really nice run. Like Cesar Hernandez, their second baseman's up after this year. They have no one really worth talking about that much in the outfield right now. Franmil Reyes is a nice piece. Franmil Reyes is a nice piece of DH, and that's really about it. And I mean, if you have a team that just runs out pitchers who are studs like they do, then you just kind of take your losses on defense, figure it out, and rebuild it. I think that's probably their best bet. I think Minnesota is going to be better next year. So it's going to be another 2-team race next year. I just, with Detroit on the upswing, Kansas City slowly getting there, I think you look at it from the Indian or Guardians perspective and say, yep, this is kind of it.
Their time has come.
This is the end of the road. This is the end of the window. We started it with Lindor. We're going to finish it with Ramirez and tear it down.
Yeah, I think we kind of expected that with that Lindor move in the offseason, that it was going to take a lot for them to compete. And, they're at 500, credit for them. It's
for
just,
sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to be enough in that division or the AL this year.
Right.
So
it'll be interesting to see not only what they do with Ramirez, if they decide to sell off, what happens to guys like Bieber and Plesac and Savali. How many of them stick around? I mean, you look at past deals for ace starters with years of control, that's a Chris Sale type return. Is that something they decide to go down the road of? It'll be interesting to see. I just think right now, with one really good team in the White Sox, one better than this team in the Twins, and then teams on the upswing with Detroit and Kansas City, it's not your time right now. Just accept that and be ready for when those teams' contention windows start to close. So
start the Guardians name with just like a whole, just start from the ground.
New roster.
Yeah, honestly.
Start a new era, branded as a new era of Cleveland baseball.
Yeah,
and we're starting
perfect
with this new young crew that we're going to teach how to play Guardian baseball.
Let's make a Major League 3.
It all makes too much sense. Get the production company ready. All right. Inning 4, fact or fiction. Maybe kind of similar to the Guardians in this perspective. The New York Yankees should consider retooling at this year's trade deadline with the current lookout in the American League and particularly the American League East. Diego, your thoughts?
So if the Yankees, if they want to compete, they do need to retool. So I'd say it's a fact there. But do I think that they should retool? I'd say probably not. They're 5 games over 500. They're 8 games back. Eight games back of both Boston and Tampa Bay. They're not even the second best team in their division. They're nowhere near, the best team in the AL. Like, if they want to try to compete because the Yankees are super obnoxious and they're going to do something like that, even though they're nowhere near the talent level of the teams like the White Sox, the Rays, the Red Sox, like, sure, retool. I'd love to see the Yankees decimate their future for a mediocre run and not even make the playoffs. That'd be fantastic. The Yankees are bad. Baseball's better. But
amen.
I don't think they're a playoff team in general. So, like, if they want to retool and try to compete, absolutely they should. That is something they should be doing. But I don't think, like, from a smart baseball perspective, I don't think they should. They have too much pride as an organization for some reason that they don't want to accept the fact that they're not in a playoff race. So they'll probably add to the deadline, retool a bit, get some new whatever they need, probably just about everything. Their outfield's atrocious right now. But yeah, the less the Yankees play, the better. If they're playing at the end of the regular season, that'd be perfect. So yeah, I'm tired of obnoxious Yankee fans being like, we're going to be really good. I'm like, no, you're not. Just accept it. If you haven't muted the word Yankees on Twitter, I highly recommend it. It'll make your life so much better. It makes life so much better. But yeah, should they retool if they want to compete? Yes, fact. Do I think they should? No, they're not. there's no point. They don't have the talent this year. Just take it as it is and admit defeat. But they won't, so they probably will.
I saw some tweet on Twitter the other day.
Where you see tweets.
I knew you were going to say that too. I saw a tweet the other day, something like the Yankees were maybe going to trade, maybe it was Scherzer or something they were going to trade for. And then someone tweeted like, think about it, Cole, Scherzer, Severino, who's hurt, Tyone. This would be one of the best rotations in the history of baseball. Dude, that's not even the best rotation in the American
baseball
League.
This year. It's not the best rotation on the Yankees roster.
Yeah, it's like
and both Cole and Scherzer have been part of better rotations in their career.
Exactly. It was peak Yankee fan.
That's exactly what I mean, though. I'm tired of that. I want to watch Yankees fans be sad.
I agree. Matthew, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that and Yankee Twitter overreactions, but I'm going to go the other direction. And because half of Yankees Twitter is exactly what you said, saying they're going to compete every year. They should be the World Series favorites no matter what. They have the best rotation or whatever, all that stuff. But then half of it's acting like this is the worst season in baseball history. And you have to remember, there's still, 5 games above 500? The number of teams right now that haven't seen that in, years. And they're acting like it's the worst thing ever. So they're overreacting to the other side. And I still think, 1 piece, 2 pieces might be enough for them. I don't know if they're going to win the division. They're only 3.5 games out of the wild card, though. And it's the Yankees. They always find a way to win some games. And starting next week, they have 13-game stretch against the Marlins, Orioles, Mariners, and Royals. 3 of those teams are horrible. And then the Mariners are right there with them, and that's the team you have to beat if you're going to compete. So that stretch there, if you buy a piece before that, you win, 10 of those games, all of a sudden you're in a wild card spot, and you just got to play, average baseball the rest of the year against the best teams when you play the Red Sox, the Rays in your division, and you're in the playoffs. And, is it worth it to go all that to get a 1-game playoff where you might be home? Who knows? But once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And, if Cole has his good starts, you buy another pitcher and you have 2 pitchers and you got Judge get hot, you get Stanton get hot in the playoffs, and you could go on a run. So as much as I agree with Diego, I don't want to see them in the playoffs. I want to see them playing baseball. From a baseball perspective, it probably would make sense for them to try to go in and make a run.
I think it's an interesting thought. I think they're very similar to the Twins this year, the Red Sox last year. You're a pretty good ball club that just not everything's clicking right now. And maybe you sell off a couple expiring contracts, get a couple pieces, get a nice little higher draft pick, and then all of a sudden you end up with the next Jack Leiter, and you're in first place in the American League East. Like, there is a benefit to teams looking at this right now and saying, we're hovering around 500. We're underperforming as a roster. I don't need to sell off, but I don't necessarily need to add either. Like, I can trade someone who's on the last year or 2 on their contract and get something good and tank a little bit to where instead of my picks in the high 20s, maybe it's in the mid-teens, and it's like that's a big difference in picks, and who knows what you find. And then the Yankees being the Yankees, they're right back there next year competing. So
the difference for me is, like you said, it's going from maybe the 20s to the mid-teens as opposed to the Red Sox who had 4 last year.
That's a good point.
They're not going to
miss the playoffs. Miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do what the
I don't
Twins
think
are doing.
from 5 games above 500, 100 games into the season, they're going to get far enough down where, it would make that immediate of a difference in the next season or 2.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I think that's probably part of the rationale in the Yankees front office right now. It's like, we could kind of – there's a few bad contracts we can try and get rid of. Is it worth it to fall 5 or 6 picks? I think that's the conversation they have to have. Although I will say, if I got to be as spoiled as Yankees fans, and this is the worst problem I've had in about 15 years, I'd be pretty happy right now. But is what it
need
is.
to be sad for a
Yeah,
little
you need
bit.
to be sad for 3 months, and then you can have like the next 15 years to be happy. So
Just a little bit. Everyone
Just-
needs to go through at least once.
exactly, just a mini rebuild, not a huge one, just a mini one. But anywho, inning 5. This is an interesting one. I mean, electronic pitcher-catcher communication from a transmitter on a wristband to a receiver inside of a ball cap is coming to the Cal League this year. It's a weird-looking device, I'll be honest. Major League Baseball hopes it will improve pace of play and curb illegal sign stealing. Matthew, any chance this ever makes it into the major leagues?
I don't think so. I think by the time they would have the discussions and come to an agreement on something like that, that if they do agree to some sort of thing, which I still don't think will happen, it'll be much more advanced than I've seen the pictures of this. But getting the Players Association and the owners or whatever the sides are arguing on this is very difficult. I don't think something that like this will ever get put in play. We'll have to see what it does. I don't think it's going to improve pace of play that much. I don't think it's going to cut down on whatever cheating or illegal sign stealing there is, because if we're being honest, it's not really as much as people try to make it seem. There's some, sure, if you're on second base, you might see what the catcher's doing, but that's part of the game. That's okay. It's, what the Astros did for that season or two or whatever a couple of years ago. But I think we're past that because of the light that was brought to it. Teams are finding other ways around it. We don't need a device that is specifically used to get around that. So we'll see what it does in the Cal League, but I don't think it ever makes it as high as the major leagues.
Diego, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Matthew here. I don't think this ever makes it to the majors, mostly because why would it? Like, it's a good idea, a good thing to test, I think, in the Cal League, in those partner leagues, minors and all that. It shows a willingness to fix something. This sign stealing was a huge deal. The Astros didn't get punished for it at all. So, I mean, it shows that they're actively trying to do something to maybe right a wrong that they created the problem that's at hand, mostly. Because they kind of just dismiss the cheating thing, the sign stealing, and that's caused so many repercussions that we're seeing now. So if they don't dismiss that, I don't think we get this now. But I think I like the idea that they're willing to try something to curb a current problem in the game, to fix a problem that is existing. Pace of play is only an issue for Rob Manfred. Let's be real here. No one else cares about pace of play. If I can watch 5 hours of baseball a night, I will happily do so. I do, I actively do that every night, but it's usually between a few games. But alas, Rob Manfred's just a big dumb idiot who shouldn't be in charge of anything, let alone one of the 4 major sports leagues in the U.S. So Major League Baseball is willing to make some drastic changes. This is just an example of that. I just want to see them implement those changes in somewhere that makes more sense than what they're currently doing, something like this. I want to see them make changes to not the sign stealing thing with the little, Yu-Gi-Oh! Whatever they got on the wrist with numbers and pads. I don't know what they're doing. I think Rob Manfred's dumb. The whole front office of MLB they're focusing on the wrong issues. And so it is what it is, but I don't think it makes it to the majors, so I don't think this is ever going to be a problem. But the willingness they've showed to do something about an issue they have is promising, but Manfred will probably screw this up like he screws up everything else too. So,
yeah.
I want to see if I can pull up that electronics buzzer really fast off of Twitter because it looks ridiculous.
It's funny.
Oh.
Looks like one of those calculators you might buy in second grade.
Exactly what I was thinking. Looks like a calculator on their wrist. Okay, I'm going to keep looking while we talk about this next question because we're staying on the topic of problems Major League Baseball has right now with inning number 6. And if I find the picture, I will share it here. Inning 6, umpiring has been the talk of baseball fans and some players throughout this year, and more now than ever, some would argue, including me. It took a step forward on Saturday as Jace Tingler said the Padres would be putting in a call to the league office regarding the umpiring during their Saturday game. It was a pretty big issue on Twitter. It was a lot of calls outside the zone were being called strikes, and the Padres were not happy about it. So it made its rounds on social media. Diego, does Major League Baseball have an umpire problem? And if so, how do they fix it?
Major League Baseball absolutely has an umpire problem. Like, this isn't new information to anybody who's watched any Major League Baseball game. I mean, let's be real here. Yeah, I think the umpires are just full of it. They're too prideful in themselves to admit they're wrong ever. Like, look at Angel Hernandez, the clown of baseball, one of them anyway. Angel Hernandez, if you want to fix the umpire problem, start with firing him. He'll probably sue the MLB again, or sue MLB for whatever he did the first time around, but it's just because he's horrible at his job. Like, we all know that. Angel Hernandez, bad baseball umpire. This isn't new information, but I think there's some pretty simple solutions. I think, like I said, first, Hernandez gone. Easy. Makes everyone's life a lot better. Ban him from every Major League stadium. He deserves to be nowhere near the game.
I struck a nerve with this question.
Yeah, but the game will thank you for getting rid of him. Joe West, honestly, not really doing too hot anymore either. He doesn't need to be umpire anymore. But, like, the solution is to hold umpires accountable. Because right now, there's no accountability for umpires to do their job well. I think it'd be a cool idea would to have kind of like a relegation kind of deal. You know how like players get called up, they get sent down. Why not do the same thing with umpires? Angel Hernandez would probably be in single A at this point, but like if you can send like an umpire down to AAA for a bit to work on his umpiring, that would make the game better as a whole. Like it makes a lot of sense. At least like you have that, and I think you have that in maybe levels of the minor leagues. Why not implement it all the way up to the major leagues? Because it holds them accountable. If they want to stay at the major league level, you have to be good. You have to make proper calls. Sure, everyone's human. There is some sort of room for error. But, like, getting an 85% accuracy rating when the league average is 96, this is still Angel Hernandez, but that's not good. Like, that's not acceptable. I think it's become a huge issue on Twitter, especially with umpire scorecards on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked them out, incredible follow. That should be an immediate baseball follow. It's so good. It brings a lot to light, especially when you see the game you watched last night. You're like, see, I told you he wasn't bad. I told you I wasn't crazy. Because a lot of, everyone's like, oh, you're just overreacting. Like, no, I wasn't. This pitch was 6 inches off the zone. It was called a strike. Like, lay off. Like, I think with that, that's why people get so upset about it now. Especially, I saw an Angel Hernandez scorecard this morning. That's why I'm really harking on him. He's also really bad. But yeah, there's so many issues with it, but there's also so many solutions. Like, do this relegation thing. Make sure the umpires' egos don't get too big because they make the games about themselves and because they think they can do that. Because baseball has given them the power to do that. So take that power away from them, and things will start to fix themselves, especially when Angel Hernandez is fired or retires. So that's where I'm at.
Matthew, I'm gonna let you go. I don't know how you're gonna follow that one up.
Angel Hernandez.
That was a tirade.
You can't tell me you disagree with any of it.
No, I'm not saying I do.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head right there with the entire rant, pretty much. Does Major League Baseball have an umpiring problem? Yes. Is it new? No, not really. I did see some of the recaps, the video from the Padres game yesterday, and, that wasn't great. You're going to have games like that where, the umpire has a really bad game, and sometimes it's against one team more than the other. Whether that was on purpose or not, it's hard to tell given how bad some of these umpires are at their job in general. But I do think, like you were saying, with the umpire scorecards is part of the reason why it's gotten more attention recently, that we know for a fact if they did well or not recently, as opposed to before. It's like, yeah, I didn't think this was a strike. I didn't think so either, but maybe it was. And we also have, I think starting 2 years ago, maybe it was last year, where they added the strike zone box on all broadcasts across Major League Baseball, and that also same effect where you can see in real time the pitch missed and why the batter is upset or the team is upset. And it's crazy because you'll see, a pitch will miss 6 inches outside, called a strike, and someone from the dugout will say that's not a strike because it's not, and immediately get thrown out. And then, you're sitting there like my manager, my star pitcher, whatever, was ejected from the game for a pitch that was clearly off the plate.
Yep.
I mean, before they had that, but it was just like occasionally they'll show for a pitch. So I do think that might not have been the best decision for Major League Baseball to require all teams to show that if they weren't going to make the umpires responsible and accountable for these mistakes. I think, like what Diego said, some sort of relegation or minor league system where you get promoted or demoted based on your performance would make sense. But other than that, I'm not really sure what they could do other than taking the big leap to the robo umps. That would basically be the only other option. And, we've seen that has its own things, its own problems. So something for MLB to think about for sure.
Yeah, Major League Baseball's got an umpire problem.
This is the game in question yesterday. Padres and
let's pull you up bigger.
Yeah. Padres and Miami.
Yeah, when your zone is that wide, I mean, I don't even care if it's consistently that wide. Like,
this is Angel Hernandez, by the way, from us. This is the one I saw this morning. But
like, if your zone is that wide, that's an issue, in my opinion. I think they need to. There's going to need to be some balance, and I still think you're both right. Holding umpires accountable for missing calls and making bad calls is important because right now the court of public opinion isn't enough. In my opinion, that's where it comes down to. But let's jump into inning number 7. MLB's turn ahead the clock jerseys from 1999.
They were so
I
good.
found this. They were supposed to represent how baseball would look in the year 2021, which is why I brought up this question. They weren't particularly close with what they looked like. So my question to you both is, they were not great. They were fun. I thought they were kind of funny, but
yeah.
What's your favorite jersey, good or bad, from your favorite team's history? And Matthew brought up the point that his team wasn't even a team back in 1999. So we'll see what we can do with this question. But I'm still curious. You can do good or bad. But we'll start with Diego.
Yeah, so the Giants haven't really strayed too far from what they've done always. They've gone from using white to cream in their home uniforms, and that's kind of been their thing. And that's kind of like, the Giants' staple home uniform, and the gray is on the road like always. But I really like their current orange Friday jerseys. It's just orange, Giants, and a cursive font across the front. But my favorite jersey that the Giants have is this one. It just says Gigantes across the front. When they did the
it's a clean look.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Black and orange is so good.
Black and orange is hard to beat, and I just liked the they did the Spanish names and everything. So the Gigantes across the front, just because I'm Mexican, feel very represented with it too, and so I think it's really, really cool. It's very clean. The orange with orange lettering on the black jersey just looks incredible, and easily the worst Giants uniform is those awful City Connects that we just got. They're horrific in every sense of the word. The only thing good about them is the sweatshirts are pretty cool because the logo itself, you put it on an all orange background in the middle of a sweatshirt, it looks pretty nice. But on the jerseys, it just looks terrible. And like I said, the Giants haven't really strayed too far with what they do with their uniforms. But that jersey, it sucks. Like, it's not good. They had so much potential. They just dropped the ball. It's so bad. But, yeah, I mean, if that's like the worst one in the history of the Giants, like, I'll take it, I guess. Yeah. It could be a lot worse, but it's so bad. It's just I have to live with it now, which is the problem. But, yeah, once those are gone, I'll be a lot happier. But they're tough to look at, too. It's hard on the eyes. But, yeah, these ones are sick. Those ones bad.
Matthew, your thoughts on your short history?
Well, My favorite of the good jerseys for the Nationals is the blue ones they do, where originally it was with the curly W that had the red, white, and blue in it.
Mhm.
Now they've got the national script across. And I think the blue look works well. But for baseball in general, I feel like there's not that much color in the jerseys compared to some of the other sports like basketball or football, where it's usually the home team in white, the road team in gray. It's kind of boring. Um, though there have been good strides made recently to try to get some alternates, even if they're not worn that often. You have the Players Weekend jerseys, though I guess that was black and white for that 1 year. But
Year before that,
when that was, yeah, the first couple of times they did that was good. Now the City Connect jerseys for other than the Giants, sorry about that, Diego. The rest of them have been pretty good. The
Yeah.
White Sox was
White Sox.
awesome.
The Marlins.
I loved the Diamondbacks one. So hopefully we get more good ones like that, and other teams, even if it's not the City Connect jerseys, playing around with alternates, adding colors, the black and orange combo for the Giants, the Orioles, something like that, could really help, make the product on the field look better, like visually.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So that's pretty much where I stand with the jerseys.
I think for me, I don't know. I don't have a favorite, or I like a lot of the White Sox jerseys. I will say these are not one of them, however. The shorts look, that was a failure.
His legs are jacked.
I picked that photo because his legs are jacked. I'm like, that might be the only time I'm okay wearing shorts if I had legs that big.
Yeah.
It's like, I would be okay with that. But
Chris Sale's not too happy with some of the White Sox.
Yeah,
Chris Sale never loved them. But yeah, the shorts, that whole jersey is just an interesting look.
Yeah.
Since I promised very quickly here before we get into our final segment, I promised the stopwatch looking thing on the wrist.
I call it Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think that's not.
Oh yeah, your Yu-Gi-Oh.
What if it did do like the whole thing like Yu-Gi-Oh did? That'd be kind of funny.
So
yeah,
it is not what I would expected it to look like. I'll be honest with you.
The 5 is kind of weird.
I know. Why 5?
Stretched.
It's all kind of weird.
There's 0.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, why would you just not have like things for like pitches, like fast 4-seam, 2-seam? Like why?
Well, then you have like Yu Darvish out there. You need like 15 different buttons.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a good point. But that's the end of 7th inning stretch. I think Diego took that one. So congratulations. Another close matchup, however. Heading in the final stretch here. What to watch for this week? Matthew and Diego have their thoughts on the best matchups, best teams, whatever to watch this week, and they're going to tell you why you should be watching it. We'll start with the winner, Diego.
Yeah, so Dodgers at Giants. Like classic matchup. Always is. Always will be, but when both the teams are going to be fighting for first still at that point. So like that series, whoever wins that series will end up in first after the series. So it makes that series that much more important, that much more exciting. Starts, I think it's Tuesday to Thursday. Also, I'm going to be there on Tuesday, so I'm very excited for that. So it's a good to watch. Another team to watch, just the Cubs. See who's left after the trade deadline. So I think that's my what to watch, who to watch. Giants, Dodgers, it's going to be really exciting. Cubs, we'll see where everyone ends up.
Matthew?
I'm going to go with a different rivalry in the AL East, but it's the Red Sox and Rays, the classic, AL East rivalry out there.
The most important, most storied.
Clearly. But both of them sitting at 16-39, we've talked about, tied in first place, play a weekend series, and that could go a long way if one of the teams sweeps it or even just winning the series could try to start determining the AL East winner as we get towards the home stretch. And then, like Diego mentioned, a bunch of the trade candidates as we get on the last week before the deadline. Specifically, Scherzer, who was scratched yesterday, might make one more start as a Nat. Could be gone after that. That'll be something I'm watching in Philly. And then all these other players that, their name is rumored. Could they be traded? Get to watch them one last time with their old team, or maybe the first time with their new team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the trade deadline is the biggest thing. It's been quiet so far. I'm hoping by the next time we record this that we have a little bit more to talk about when it comes to the trade deadline, because two very small deals for rentals that are both both done by the Rays is not much fun to talk about. But hopefully there's some more action. I know there's plenty of exciting matchups this week. Talk of the week's certainly going to be the trade deadline, though. So we'll see what action that brings. But for now, that's going to do it for us on episode 14 of This Week in Baseball, Season 2. You know where to find us. Diamond-digest.com is the website. Diamond_digest is the Twitter handle. Diamond.digest is the Instagram handle. Find us everywhere, especially for some interesting jersey swaps, I'm sure, this week. Our graphic design crew will be plenty busy.
Best in the business.
I was just going to say, because they are the best in the business.
Baseball or otherwise.
True.
It is fantastic the work they put out, so I'm sure they'll have some fun this week. I'm sure we'll have plenty of articles out this week, too, about the trade deadline, assuming moves get made, which might be an assumption this year. We'll see. We're expecting to see moves, and we're hoping for plenty to talk about next week. But for the winner, Diego Franco-Carreno and his green screen, for noted Nationals fan Matthew Penn, and for the 5 minutes that Joey Bohley was able to join us today, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Go baseball.
And go baseball indeed.